I'll let you go, Mr. Fahour. There's a piece running on the front page of the West Australian newspaper today around proposals that are coming together for private sector delivery of government payments. So specifically, the report discusses Medicare, pharmaceutical benefits scheme, aged care benefit payments, that sort of thing, to be delivered by the private sector. Pretty big proposal. And the article also notes that AusPost would be pretty well placed to deliver some or all of those services. Can you just give us your read on that, please, and give us an indication of what is underway as far as Australia Post is concerned?
Thank you very much, Senator Eltham. At the start of this session, Senator Xenophon asked exactly the same question, and Senator Dastyari followed up with along the same lines. And for the sake of brevity, if you don't mind, I'll give you a short answer, but if you wish any more further details, I'm more than happy to elaborate. But as I mentioned, I wasn't aware of that article, but as I had stated to earlier the senators, which is we had publicly mentioned 2 years ago here at the Senate itself that we were one of the people who responded to the payment system opportunity that was put out to the private sector. And we are delighted to try to see if we could do more services on behalf of the government, like we do with, for example, passports, which we've been doing for over 35 years. And we play a very important role with our post offices scattered across the country to deliver those government services. And if there is a way for us to use our existing systems, which we already have, and as you would know, Senator, you can go into a post office and pay your bills and do all sorts of transaction services, we would like to participate in those. So we've been very public about that. Some individual was mentioned who says that we've been shortlisted. That was wonderful news that I hadn't been aware of. I don't know who this individual is, but if you have any connections in there, we would love you to push him along and say Australia Post is a great place for him to push that too.
Well, it hasn't actually happened yet, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Presumably that would be quite valuable for Australia Post. Are you at the stage of putting tender documents together, or like where is this actually up to?
No, it was literally a year and a half ago. It was more an RFI rather than an RFP, and that's very important, as I'm sure you do.
I being interest rather than proposal?
Yeah, it was information rather than a proposal, and so we put forward some information. But we haven't heard as to where that process is at.
You haven't heard in more than a year and a half?
No, I mean, I heard maybe 6 to 9 months ago that they were still reviewing their processes, but I haven't been engaged, and I'm not aware of any high-level engagement on this opportunity. Quite frankly, I thought it had gone away a long time ago.
It appears that it might have been brought back out of the bottom drawer. Could you just check for us so you've been pretty clear and unambiguous that you haven't been engaged in any discussions with other arms of government in the last, 6 to 8 months?
On the payment proposal?
Well, on the payment.
On the payment proposal, definitely not. But I can say to you categorically, day in, day out, my sales team and I and many of our people are engaged in trying to find as many opportunities for us to continue to do things like passports, driver's license, birth certificates, marriage, taxation, all those types of services which we've been doing for decades and decades. We would love to do more, but on this specific proposal you're referring to, as I mentioned to you, I thought it'd gone away.
Medicare, PBS, aged care.
Yeah.
Senator Fifield, are you able to shed any light? Mr. Fahour believes that this was an idea that was being kicked around 18 months ago or thereabouts. It's on the front page of the paper today. Can you shed any light on the thinking of government at this time?
Well, it doesn't fall within the communications portfolio responsibility.
Well, it might do if one of your portfolio agencies is tendering for all of this work.
But I think Mr. Fahour has said that these are conversations that date back some time. In terms of what government may or may not do in relation to payment schemes in the health or social services portfolio is a matter for the health or social services portfolios. If there's a particular type of architecture or alternative mechanisms of payment that they're looking at, which I'm not aware of, and I wouldn't necessarily be, because it's not my portfolio area. Those are really questions that need to go to them. Mr. Fahur can only really answer questions to the extent that Australia Post has had an interest in providing additional services through its outlets.
Okay, I'll leave it there. If you're able to just double check for us, Mr. Fahur, whether anybody within your organisation has been engaged in conversations more recently than the last 6 months or so.
Happy to take that on notice, Senator.
I'll leave it there. Thanks, Chair.